Hello everyone, welcome to the stream, and today we are flying the CRJ 900. We're doing a flight using around Delta 1892. We are flying from Ottawa, Canada to LaGuardia in New York. And in this flight I'll go through all the steps that I go through from not cold and dark but turnover stage to cold and dark when we get to LaGuardia. So let's get started. And I've already created the flight plan on SimBrief. The next step would be to download the flight plan using SimBrief downloader. So just making sure it is the flight that we want, and we have downloaded, and we can easily import it to our flight computer. Okay, so the first thing that we are going to do, and also today I'll be using ATC, and we will be using Pilot to ATC for that purpose. Okay, so the first thing is we're going to go to our performance tab, and we are going to enter our fuel, zero fuel weight, and our block fuel. So from SimBrief, our zero fuel weight today is 67,065. And our block fuel will be 10,259 pounds. 1,259 pounds. There you go. We can put it on set in simulator. This looks very bright. Yeah, this should do it. Okay. So once we're done with that, we can actually start our APU right now. So we're gonna press on this and then start. I need to also fix one of my other displays to have my PFD and MFD. As you can see, having this view, it is very hard to see what's going on in the PFD or MFD. So real quick, I will reset that. Okay. So now it's going to be easier on me, and our APU is starting. While that is starting, we can go ahead and start doing our flight planning. Or actually before that, we can go ahead and turn on some of our lights. So for lights right now, I would turn on the nav lights, logo light, and we don't really need wind inspection. We can go ahead, turn on our seatbelt sign, and arm our emergency exit lights. Once we are done with that, we can go ahead and start setting our flight computer. And with the CRJ, I really like to move the air brakes. Okay, there you go. Okay, so first thing what we're going to do on our flight computer is go to position initialization. We will copy one of the GPS values and we will put over here. And also what we could do is we could also enter our origin airport, which is CYOW. Yeah, that is it. And there you go. Once we have that, we can go ahead to our flight planning. And for flight plan, if you download using SimBrief downloader, then all you have to do is enter the two airports ICAO code. So we can go at CYOW and we are going to KLGA. Once we have that, you can see all our information is already entered in our flight computer, and we can press execute. Next thing what we're going to do is we're going to go to departure arrival. We are not using any SID, so we're just going to select this one more time, execute, go back to departure arrival page, go to arrivals, select ILS22, and we are using HARP 3 as our star with ALP transition. So we can do that and execute. Now we would go to legs page to make sure there is no vector or discontinuity in our flight plan. So as you can see, we already see a discontinuity, and that is because there are two ALP waypoints, and that is because after you add the star, sometime it adds another point. So we're gonna copy that and put it on the first one. We'll keep going, and we can see over here vector and LGA. So LGA is actually a VOR, but what we are going to do is we are not going to go all the way on top of the airport, then come back and join the ILS. So instead we're going to go to next page. We will copy Yeoman, which will be our initial approach fix for ILS, and we are gonna put it right on LGA. Now that we have that, this looks good. We can execute, and also what I like to do is just to confirm that my flight plan is looking good, we can go ahead, turn this knob and get into flight plan mode. We can maybe zoom in a little bit, yeah, and then we'd go to MFD advanced page and we can go ahead next waypoints. So as you can see, so far it looks good, and our flight plan looks actually good. It leads us to our runway. Just to confirm, we can zoom in a little bit more. From Harp we are going to Carly, then we are gonna go to Yeoman, which will be our initial approach fix for our ILS, and then runway, well, this is the last one, but we're gonna go to runway 22 in LaGuardia. So once we're done with that, we can go back to our flight planning page. We can fix this and zoom out a little bit. Okay, so the next thing we'll do is go to perf init page, and before we do anything, we'll go back to our flypad and press on the copy. So let me go here, yeah. So we can press on the copy perf init data to FMS, go back to our FMS, and you can see right now it is populated with those values. We just need to input our cruising altitude, which will be today flight level 360. Wow, we're flying very high. So flight level 360. We can go to next page. You can put in the winds. I'll just leave it for this flight. Nothing else needs to be done. We can execute that. We can go to Vnav Setup and just make sure everything looks good. It does, and that will be it. What I like to do is, before I move from the flight computer, I'd like to go to MFD menu and put it on Vnav, just to have more details over here, when to descend and TOD points and all that. Then we can go to legs, and this is it for our flight planning. Next step is we are going to copy our V speeds. And now, before we do the next step, which is setting up our QNH and airport elevation and all that information, okay, so we are going to connect our pilot to ATC and get our information of QNH and all that. So let's go ahead and do that, and here is my window for pilot to ATC. Also, we can configure our call sign however we want. So we're gonna fly Delta, so we can type DAL, Delta Airlines, and flight would be 1892. We can save that and go ahead and connect.
McDonald Cartier International Information Kilo 190 Zulu, winds are 19 at 16 knots gusting to 20 knots. Visibility unrestricted. In LT rain. 1,800 few clouds. 3,000 overcast. Temperature 9, dew point 7. Current altimeter is 29908. Arriving and departing runway 14. McDonald.
Okay, once we have that 299.8, we can set it here as well. So there you go. Also, we're gonna set airport elevation, which is hard to see because it is right on this display, and the way you set it is up here. But I do have that on my other screen, so we're gonna go ahead and set it, and it looks like it is 377, and I got that information from our Navigraph chart right here. So we're gonna set it to as close as possible, which would be 380. And there you go, airport elevation has been set. Okay, as we are up here, we can also do some other stuff like turn on our windshield to low. And as we are gonna, should I do it right now? Yeah, we can do that later. Before we turn on our engine, we'll turn on our beacon light. But now the next step would be with our ATC. We're gonna try to get our flight clearance. Delta 1892, ready to copy IFR.
Delta 1892 is cleared to Kilo Lima Golf Alpha as filed. Expect departure runway 32. Climb and maintain 4,000 feet. Expect higher clearances 2 minutes after departure. Departure on 128.17. Squawk 6405.
Delta 1892 is cleared to Kilo Lima Golf Alpha as filed. Climb and maintain 4,000 feet. Expect higher clearances 2 minutes after departure. Departure on 128.17. Squawk 6405.
Delta 1892 read back correct. Altimeter 29er contact ground on 121.9 when ready for pushback. Have a nice day.
Altimeter 29er ground on 121.9 Delta 1892.
Okay, now that we have our initial clearance for altitude and our squawk code, we have that on set. For some reason my autopilot panel is not working, so I will go ahead and try to see what's up with that. Sped.next. I think there is some issue with that, so we'll reopen that. Now why so many things are going wrong, but we'll do that, and once this is figured out, we can go ahead and set our trim for takeoff. Also plan our pushback, engine start, and all the other fun stuff. Okay, it should be working right now, so yeah. Okay, as you can see, our initial clearance to 4,000 feet, that is on my PFD. And next, the trims, which will be 7.0. So if we go over here, right now it is 7.5. I have that mapped to one of my devices, my throttle quadrant actually. So there you go, 7.0, that is set. And now we're gonna start the trims, stabilizer trims, Mach trim, and yaw dampers can come on as well. Okay, we have all that. Let's go back to our flypad, and what we're going to do is, everything is closed. We'll remove our ground unit, and we are going to remove our wheel chocks because we are ready for pushback and engine start. Now in Canada, I'm not sure if we have to get permission from ATC, but just to be on the safe side, we can go ahead and do that. Delta 1892 request pushback and engine start.
Delta 1892 pushback and engine start approved.
Okay, now
Pushback
that
and
is
engine
approved,
start approved. Delta 1892.
we can pre-plan our pushback and we are using runway 14. Yes, we are using runway 14, so I know where to move. Why is this doing... Okay, I don't know why this pushback toolbar always does this, but I will just make an educated guess and just move over here. Okay. We can go ahead and start our pushback. Also, we'll set our hydraulics to auto and on position, turn on our fuel boost pump, and get ready for our engine start. Beacon light can go on, and we'll wait for pushback to start, and we can start our engine.
Okay, sir. The bypass pin is installed. All doors and hatches closed and all ground equipment is removed.
The parking brakes are set. You may lift.
Parking brake set. Lifting the aircraft.
We are cleared for start and push.
Okay, cleared for push start. Please release parking brake.
So we are going to release our parking brake.
Parking brakes are released.
Commencing pushback. You can start the engines in sequence.
It will start in the sequence.
Okay, let's go ahead, start our right engine first. What we have to do when our engine start is we are going to monitor our ECAM for N2 to reach 20%, and then we can unlock this and put our throttle on idle. We are almost getting there, 19, and there you go, 20, so we can put it on idle and wait for our N1 to rise along with the ITT.
Okay, pushback completed. Please set your parking brake.
Parking brake set.
Parking brake set. Lowering aircraft.
Okay, engine 1 is stabilized and it has started, so we can go ahead, start our
Okay,
left
sir.
engine.
Clear to disconnect. Pin has been removed. See you at the side. Have a good flight.
Holding position waiting for the visual. Thank you and goodbye.
Okay, same thing, we're gonna follow N2 to reach 20%, and then we can put our left engine on idle, our throttle on idle. So left engine throttle on idle, and we'll just wait for our engine to stabilize. While we're waiting for that, we can go ahead and turn on our taxi lights. So taxi lights go on, beacon is on, strobe stays off for now. Yep, everything is looking good. Once both our engines are stabilized, we can go ahead and start taxiing. Also, we will turn our nose wing steering on, and our reverse thrusters, which are placed right over here, those go on. Okay, our engine has stabilized. We can go up and close our APU. Also, we can turn our probe heats left and right, and I think we are ready for taxi. The only thing that is left is to put our flaps on takeoff configuration, which will be flaps 8. Okay, we are ready to taxi, so let's go ahead and do that. Parking brake goes off, and we are going to start moving. Ooh. Seems like it's very sensitive on nose wheel steering. Oh, we have to turn on our nose light as well. It is actually dark. I don't understand why is it moving so abruptly. I can't even see the taxi. Okay, I see some yellow lines over here, so I guess we'll just follow those. Oh wait, I completely forgot. We didn't even ask for taxi clearance. Wow, my bad. Delta 1892, ready to taxi, runway 14.
Delta 1892 taxi to runway 14 via taxiways Charlie Charlie, Alpha, Lima, hold short runway 14.
Taxi to runway 14 via taxiways Charlie Charlie, Alpha, Lima, hold short runway 14 Delta 1892.
Actually recently got the 900 and 1000 expansion pack, and I guess my rudder pedals are not that comfortable with the plane, or I'm not even sure what I'm doing wrong that it's moving in such a jittery way. Also, while we're taxiing, I am going to go ahead and set my climb speed, which today I will be climbing at about 235 or 240 knots. Once we line up, we can set up the remaining stuff for our autopilot. And I hope this flight goes well without any shenanigans. Okay, we are almost at the end of our taxi, and soon we should receive our
Delta 1892
there you go,
contact
tower
tower
frequency.
on 118.8. Have a good afternoon.
Tower on 118.8 Delta 1892.
And soon we're gonna ask for our takeoff clearance. Delta 1892 ready to take off runway 14.
Delta 1892 winds are 194 at 16 knots, cleared for takeoff. Runway 14 squawk 6405, maintain runway heading until above 1,400 feet, then turn heading 171 to intercept course.
Cleared for takeoff. Runway 14 squawking 6405, maintain runway heading until above 1,400 feet, then to 171 Delta 1892.
Delta 1892 climb and maintain 13,000 feet.
Climb and maintain 13,000 feet Delta 1892.
So we have already received clearance for our next altitude restrictions. So that is 13. I set that on my autopilot panel. Okay, taxi light goes off. I have gone ahead and turned on my landing lights as well as my fuel exflow. Everything looks good. We are just going to line up here as good as possible. Okay, so now we can go ahead on Toga mode, and we're gonna turn on speed select and nav, and we are ready for takeoff. One more thing, heading goes here. Toga power on throttle, and we should take off in a few. Very rough movement here. And we're about to go to V1, rotate, and there you go. Ooh, I think that was the wind. Landing gear comes off. Wow, we drifted across really bad. Thrust reversers can come off. Flaps to 1. Flaps 0. Why would that warning even come up? Wow.
Delta 1892 contact Ottawa departure on 128.17, enjoy.
Departure on 128.17 Delta 1892. Departure Delta 1892 climbing to 13,000 feet.
Delta 1892 good afternoon. Radar contact.
You have some very strong crosswind right now. And we are crossing 4,500 feet. I'm just gonna hand fly until about 10,000 feet and then I will turn on the autopilot. We can go ahead and turn off our fuel X flow here. Just a little bit of loss of concentration and some very strong winds, and we almost had a 180-degree maneuver. Just making sure we stay. Oh wow, clear skies once we get over those clouds. Love that.
Delta 1892 climb and maintain flight level 210.
There you go, we are
Climb and
cleared to
maintain
flight level 210.
210 Delta 1892.
And we're almost at 10,000, so I'm gonna go ahead, turn on autopilot. We can go ahead as we are crossing 9,800 feet and turn off our landing lights. Also, we can let our passengers walk around for a bit. That was our takeoff. From cloudy to beautiful clouds.
Delta 1892 contact Montreal Center on 134.907, have a good afternoon.
Center on 134.907 take care Delta 1892. Center Delta 1892 climbing to flight level 210.
Delta 1892 good afternoon. Radar contact.
So right now we're climbing to flight level 210 and soon I'm expecting to receive clearance for our cruising altitude, which will be flight level 370. Soon we are gonna reach our transitioning altitude and we have to set our barometers to standard.
Gentlemen, we are now serving sandwiches.
Delta 1892 climb and maintain flight level 290.
Climb and maintain flight level 290 Delta 1892.
Delta 1892, you are off course. Turn left heading 132 to return to course.
Heading 132 Delta 1892.
And we reached our transition altitude, so we are going to go ahead and set our barometer to standard, as well as this barometer, as well as our co-pilot. So I think that should be somewhere here. Yeah, there you go.
Delta 1892, turn right heading 132.
Heading 132 Delta 1892.
Let my flight computer do the job, ATC. But yeah, this is soon we're gonna be cruising. I'm not sure why we received such a high altitude. We don't really need that much.
Resume navigation Delta 1892.
But yeah, enjoy the cruise, and I'll be back before we hit our TOD point.
Delta 1892, climb and maintain flight level 370.
Climb and maintain flight level 370 Delta 1892.
Delta 1892 contact Montreal Center on 132.85. Enjoy your afternoon.
Center on 132.85 Delta 1892. Center Delta 1892 climbing to flight level 370.
Delta 1892 good afternoon. Radar contact.
So we're about 10,000 feet from our, not 10,000, 8,000 feet from our cruising altitude, and I'd like to talk about why I love flying the CRJ series. I've been flying a lot of fly-by-wire A320, where most of the flying is done by computer. Even the throttle management is fantastic. It's auto throttle. You just put it on climb, detent, and the rest is managed by the computer. But when I feel like doing some more hands-on work, like managing the throttle, managing the descent and all of that, I really love flying CRJ. It makes you work a lot more than what A320 does. And even the aspects of like landing and all that, it is much more different. And that's something that really interests me and pulls me towards this aircraft. And it's just, in general, it's very fun to fly as well. With aircraft like 737 or A320, it's a lot of managed work by the flight computer. But then when you come to aircraft like TBM 930 or CRJ or Kodiak, those aircrafts, I love to fly those when I feel like, let me just do the flying most of the time. And Aerosoft did a very good job with CRJ, where their VNav works really good. So even while descending, like, you can just follow what the computer tells you, but you need to enter your V speeds and then manage your airspeed and all that. These are the things that really makes me fly this plane a lot more than A320. Even though I do end up flying A320 a pretty significant amount of time, but it's really good to fly the CRJ as well. And if anyone is planning to get the CRJ, I would highly recommend get it. It will make you a better flight simmer, in my opinion. You're going to be doing a lot more, and you're going to be learning a lot more as well. And we have around 88 knots of headwind right now. A lot of turbulence going on as well. I hope the passengers are doing okay, but I'm enjoying this flight so far. I hope I landed pretty good. The last time I streamed, my landing went really bad because I got distracted at the very end and my speed was way off, but I was too tired to do a go around and come back and land again. But today I hope that is not going to be the case. Hope for the best, and I'll see you soon once we are getting close to TOD point, and we'll be start setting up for our descent planning.
Delta 1892 contact Boston Center on 120.35. Have a good afternoon.
Center on 120.35 Delta 1892. Center Delta 1892 climbing to flight level 370.
Delta 1892 good afternoon. Radar contact.
So we have reached our cruising altitude of 37,000 feet, and from here on we'll have to manage our throttle as well as keep an eye on reaching the TOD, top of descent point, and before we get there we'll have to set our landing elevation and our minimum altitude for our runway, which is runway 22 in LaGuardia today. And for our landing elevation, it will be around 20 feet. That's what I can see from our chart over here on Navigraph. So the minimum altitude is right over here, ILS decision height, and airport elevation you can see right over here. Touchdown zone is about 12 feet, so most probably I'm going to set it to 0. In that case, we have our transitioning altitude over here, and this is our chart. So it looks like by the time we get to Yeoman, we'll have to be at 3000 feet and then descend down to 1900 before we capture the glide slope. So once we are close to our TOD point, we will be setting those numbers in our flight computer, and from there we'll start our descent, which I believe will be in about 15 to 20 minutes. Our next waypoint will be Albany, ALBVOR, and we'll get there in about 10 minutes.
Delta 1892 expect the HARP 3 arrival with the ALB transition for the ILS approach to runway 22 at LaGuardia.
Expect the HARP 3 arrival with the ALB transition for the ILS approach to runway 22 Delta 1892.
So we have received instructions from our ATC telling us what star we are, what arrival procedure we should expect, and seems like the runways have not been changed. We are still assigned runway 22, and we are still assigned HARP 3 as our star with ALB transition point.
Delta 1892 contact Boston Center on 121.35. Enjoy your afternoon.
Center on 121.35 Delta 1892. Center Delta 1892 climbing to flight level 370.
Delta 1892 good afternoon. Radar contact.
So in the MFD, I can see that we are about 4 minutes away from our TOD point. So this would be a good time to start setting up information for our ILS. So first thing, I know this is way too early, but we can go ahead and actually set our ILS frequency from now. So we can go over here, and our ILS frequency will be 110.5. So we can go 110.5. That would go on the active for nav 1, and then we can set up our airport elevation, we'll set it to 0. It is very tricky to see that, so I'm just gonna put whatever and then go ahead and check. It's, oh wow, negative 320. Yeah, I gotta fix that. Okay, we'll go back, check it, about 60, so we need to do 3 more turns. 1, 2, 3. There you go. Finally got that, so we have set that to 0. Next we are gonna go and set our minimum decision altitude. We're gonna set that to 210. There you go. So all of that is set, and we are good to get to our descent point and start our descent. So here you can see our top of descent, 28 nautical miles away, and we're gonna get there in about 3 minutes. I hope ATC clears us to our descent altitude. If not, we can go ahead and request that before we hit our TOD point.
Delta 1892 descend via the HAARP-3 arrival with the ALB transition to 3000 feet altimeter 3036 at LaGuardia.
Descend via the Heart 3 arrival with the ALB transition to 3000 feet altimeter 3036 Delta 1892.
Okay, so we have been cleared to a good 3,000 feet, which is our initial approach fix to our ILS approach, and that's good to know because we can set our altitude. And before I do that, let me go over there. So if you can see right here, we can set it to 3,000 feet, and then we can manage it using our actually first I would set it to 10,000 feet. Once we get to 10,000 feet, and then we can descend down further to 3,000 feet. So we're about to hit our TOD point. You can see right here. Let me zoom in a little bit more. So this is our TOD point right here. Once we get there, or even before, we can just start slowly descending using our vertical speed. I have the Logitech multi display, whatever you call it, the autopilot panel. I'll use that. You get the point. We're simply gonna start descending down, so we can go ahead, and I'm going to start at about 1,000 feet right now, so cutting down on my throttle. And once we're gonna cross over the TOD point, you are going to see a star over here to tell us whether we are too high or too low from the altitude that we should be at that point. And we are going to have a blue circle over here, which will tell us how much or how fast we should. As you can see, it just popped up, so it seems like we should go a little bit more faster. So I'll put it about 1,800 feet, cutting down more on my throttle. And that should do it. So 1,800 feet per minute, that should do it for us. And I've set it to 10,000 for now. Once we get to 10,000, we're gonna further descend down. Look at that trail it has left.
Delta 1892 contact Boston Center on 134.3. Enjoy.
Center on 134.3 Delta 1892. Center Delta 1892 descending to 3,000 feet.
Delta 1892 good afternoon. Radar contact. Altimeter 3022.
Altimeter 3022 Delta 1892.
So as we are descending down to about 10,000 feet, I'm going to go ahead and set my performance tab for landing. I am not sure what the weather is for LaGuardia, but I can use my pilot to ATC, click on the weather, and it will give me skies. Okay, so there is no rain. That sounds good. Altimeter will be 3036, and yeah, seems like that is it. But there will be winds though, gusting to about 27 knots, so we'll have to be careful for that. Last time I was streaming, there was some tailwinds while I was landing, so that was not fun. But yeah, we can go ahead and set all, and our VREF speed is 141 knots. Okay, so now that I have that set on my PFD, it is going to be much more easier for me to track that. We are going to polling PWL VOR, and from there we'll take a right turn to Kingston VOR, and we are continuously descending down. We are reaching about 18,000 feet, so soon we are going to set our altimeter, and we were given altimeter 3022 by ATC, so we can turn that here. 3022. There you go. We can set that to 3022 as well. And the last would be our co-pilot. So right here. I can't really see, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna press B key, which sets everything to the one that's on sim, and on sim it's 3030. Wow, a lot different than what it should be. But yeah, while we are descending down, I hope we descend down in the right time frame that we have. There is one altitude restriction which I feel like we don't have to follow. That's for turbojets, which is 8,000. We will cross it at 8,000, but we were clear to 3,000, so we're gonna straight go to 3,000 once we reach 10,000 feet. I always like to descend earlier, just to be on the safe side and not to rush later, and then the speed is too high, the approach is completely messed up. So to avoid that, I like to descend a little bit, like around 10 nautical miles before we are supposed to get to that altitude, which as a flight sim beginner should be a good practice. There are a lot of clouds, so we're about to go through some clouds to descend down from 14,000 feet to 10,000 feet. Before we reach 10,000 feet, I will set my flight computer to go to 3,000 feet, and I guess we're speeding a little bit here. Not much, but just keeping my speed on check. As we reach 10,000 feet, we have to be at or below 250 knots. I'm going to use my speed brakes just a little bit on half, and that should help us decelerate very quick. And there we go, we are hitting 250 knots, so I'm gonna retract my speed brakes, and we are descending down from 11,000 10,000. So before we hit 10,000, I am going to set my altitude to 3,000, and at the same time I am going to cut down on my descent rate to about 1200 feet per minute. Add some throttle, and as we will cross 3,000,
Delta 1892 contact New York Oceanic Center on 121.12. Have a good afternoon.
Center on 121.12 Delta 1892.
okay, so my landing lights are on, seatbelt sign is on, and we are crossing
Center
10,000
Delta
feet.
1892 descending to 3,000 feet.
Delta 1892 good evening. Radar contact. Altimeter 3035.
Altimeter 3035 Delta 1892.
I'm just using my B key because there are so many altimeter that we gotta change, so instead, as it's just me and no co-pilot, I'm just gonna do it using the B key. Okay, we are dropping speed pretty rapidly. I'm going to add just a little bit more throttle. We're descending at about 1,000 feet per minute right now, and that should be more than enough to get to 3,000 feet by the time we get there, and if anything we can just increase our descent rate. But yeah, hopefully the approach is good, we are not overspeeding or we are not underspeeding, and hopefully the wind won't be that big of a deal. Everything's almost set for landing, we just need to turn our thrust reversers and all that, but that is when we are on our glide slope, so I will not worry about that now. We are descending pretty okay. I'm gonna put it to about 800 feet per minute.
Delta
we are maintaining at about
1892
240
contact
knots.
New York approach on 128.8. Have a good one.
Approach on 128.8 Delta 1892. Approach Delta 1892 descending to 3,000 feet.
Delta 1892 good evening. Radar contact.
Wow,
Continue
we
descent
crossed
via the HARP 3
BSI
arrival.
waypoint right
For the
at
ILS
8,000
approach
feet.
to runway 22 at LaGuardia.
Continue descent via the HARP 3 arrival. For the ILS approach to runway 22 Delta 1892.
Some very strong winds at about 48 knots coming from our right. This is why there is so much turbulence going on, and we are descending pretty well. We crossed BSI on exactly 8,000 feet, which was the restriction, so happy about that. I will just fix my heading here. Always gotta do that when we are making some turns, and we are descending from about 700 feet to 900 feet per minute. Cutting down a little bit more on our throttle, and we are doing a pretty good descent so far. Currently we are flying over somewhere over White Plains on our left side it's Stamford, Connecticut, and once we are going to take a right turn, we will be on Connecticut, and then we'll enter White Plains, New York, and keep going down over Bronx, New Rochelle, Pelham Bay, and then to LaGuardia in Queens. We are going to get to 3,000 feet a little bit early, but that is good. We want to be early and ready to capture the glide slope. Just making sure my frequency and everything is alright. So let's go ahead and check that one more time. 110.5, yes that is. We have our squawk code set as well. So let's go back and track our descent further down until we are ready for landing.
Delta 1892 altimeter 3036 cleared for the ILS approach to runway 22 at LaGuardia.
Altimeter 3036 cleared for the ILS approach to runway 22 Delta 1892.
We are crossing 4,500 feet. We made the right turn right over Connecticut and heading towards White Plains, New York, and from there on we will be on our glide slope pretty soon. And we are at about 200 knots, so I'm just going to add a little bit more power to stay around 200, 210 before we start putting our flaps down. For our landing checklist, we can go to our checklist. Before landing, flight attendant advised, passenger signs on, thrust reversers armed, landing gear down, and flaps set. We will do that in a bit.
Delta 1892 altimeter 3036 at LaGuardia, contact tower on 118.7. Enjoy your evening.
Altimeter 3036 tower on 118.7 Delta 1892.
Okay, so we have captured the localizer,
Tower Delta 1892 inbound
and
for
we can
ILS
also
approach
see
runway
our
22.
ILS
Delta 1892 good evening.
glide slope
Radar
point
contact.
right over here.
Continue ILS to runway 22, call when established on final.
Okay,
Continue
so we're
ILS
to
to runway 22.
soon we're gonna put our flaps
established
down
on final Delta
to
1892.
1. Just making sure my heading is synced. Resetting my view. We'll try to stay around 200 knots there. if we do miss the glide slope, we are setting the next descent altitude.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to land. Please remain seated until we have stopped.
Okay, so we can start seeing our glide slope point moving down. We're gonna soon activate our approach mode, and I will put my flaps down to 1 in a bit. Staying around 200 knots here, trying to stay around that. I love this challenge of managing the throttle in this aircraft. That is one of my favorite things. Okay, our flaps goes to 1. We are 1 dot above our glide slope, so once we get to that 1 dot, we are going to put our flaps to 8, and we are also going to put our landing gear shortly after that. Also, we'll put our plane on approach mode so that we can capture. Okay, there you go. Flaps 8, approach mode selected. And soon we're gonna be on glide slope. And once we are, we can go ahead and put our landing gear down as well as turn on our thrust reversers. There you go, we have captured the glide slope and we are going to start descending down. This is where I would put my landing gear down. I know it's a bit too far away, but we can do that right now. Just trying to manage my speed pretty well. We have some headwind of around 24 knots, 25, and should be gusting to about 27. And also we will shortly let our ATC know that we are on final. I think we should do it right now. Delta 1892 on final.
Delta 1892 winds are 182 at 19 knots, cleared to land runway 22.
Clear to land runway 22 Delta 1892.
Okay, we have been clear to land, so we're going to put our flaps further down to 30. We can turn on our taxi lights just to have it on. Thrust reversers have come on. Okay, speed. We gotta be careful with the speed. We always mess up on that. So we are about 1500 feet. We will hand fly it shortly. And our flaps can go full.
1000.
We're about 1000 feet above the ground and autopilot goes off. So we're gonna fly the remainder of the flight hand flying. Okay, the headwind is pushing us. I hope I can get to the center of the runway.
400. 300. 200. 100. 50, 40, 30, 20.
There you go. We'll flare just for a little bit. I guess that flare went for a bit too fast, but there
Delta
you go.
1892 exit runway when able.
Not a good one. We went down at about 339 feet per minute, which is not really good, but it is what it is. We landed safely. And reversers comes off. Thrust reversers are set. Zero, flaps up. We're gonna take this left turn on taxiway. At the end, when I started flaring, it just kept on rising. I did not wanna take off at that moment, so I had to just put it down.
Please remain seated until the aircraft has come to a complete stop.
Okay, we are down. I'm going to start my APU in a bit so that when we get to the gate and we shut off our engine, we still have power. So there you go. APU should come on. And we can go ahead, put our landing lights off. Our strobe light can go off. And we'll taxi to whatever gate is available over there. I know the landing was a little bit rough, but I'll get better with time. And this is the gate that we are going to be using for our arrival. So we can slowly come to a stop right about here. Parking brakes comes on. We are going to stop both our engines and also put on wheel shocks. Ground power gets connected. And there you go. That was it for our flight. We can let our passengers get out of the plane. Beacon light goes off. Logo light can stay on, and that is it. That is it for our flight, and thank you for watching this video. I hope you're gonna watch the next one as well soon.